So let's talk about pads in this video. If you don't know much about them, you're going to know quite a bit when I'm done. Over here, that's an X-Ped pad. Beside that is a Gossamer Gear. That is a Thermarest. That is a X-Ped. That is a Nemo, that big yellow long one. And this short one is a Nemo. So let's explain these. And why do I have so many? When you start hiking or camping, you'll start having just as many as I got over time. This particular X-Ped, I'd made a video on YouTube and said, go pick this up for $150 because I'd found a sale on Amazon. They're now $239. I got that for $150 this week, which was a steal. That pad will go down to -20. The Gossamer Gear pad, I bought it so it goes underneath the X-Ped so it prevents any tears or rips. That one there is only 3 ounces. The Thermarest pad, goes up beside me and it allows my dog to lay on it without punching holes in the bottom of my tent. The smaller pad of Nemo is not insulated. It goes on top of that Thermarest, and that's what my dog sleeps on. This one over here, this particular X-Ped, this is my son's. It's an R8, and it's -40. This one over here is a Nemo, this long rectangle one, and I can get it down to 0 if I use the Thermarest pad with it. And that's the thing about pads. You can double up on pads. You can't double up on the ones you blow up, like the X-Ped and the Nemo. It would be just too awkward. But let's say you grab 2 Thermarests like here, and they're not much. They're like 50 bucks. The Gossamer Gear was like 30. But you can actually turn around and double up on that and then throw a pad on top. That's also a thing to consider too. All pads are R-rated, and the higher that R rating, the colder you can get. So this one on the end's an R7, okay? This Gossamer Gear is probably a 0.5. This one here, the Thermarest, is an R2. This one over here is an R8. This one over here is probably an R4, maybe 4.5. This one down here, because it's not insulated, is probably an R2. Okay, so all these pads have a different R rating, and I can juggle that R rating by putting other pads underneath. But most of the time, I'm using pads underneath to protect the main pad from getting a puncture hole in it. Now, when you get to set up during the day, and you're able to look around, kick out any glass, any rocks, okay, that's nice. But when you don't, and it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and you got to set up at night, then you can use your flashlight to a certain extent, but it's not as easy to get it cleared as it would be during the day. And then you put your tent down, then you put your pads down, and it's a process as you get there. I've seen people just throw their tents up and look and say, yep, that ground's flat, and then throw their tent up, and then within 2 hours later, I hear pop, where they'd put it on top of a piece of glass and punched through the bottom of the tent. It went into the pad, and then that was the end of their camping trip. I've seen that more than once. So I used the Gossamer Gear one with the 2x4 underneath my X-Ped, and it protects to a certain extent. Now, I'm not crazy on my pad. I'm not rolling all over the place, but my dog, she needs something big like the Thermarest because she stands up, she turns around, she moves one side, the other side. I mean, she's not concerned about whether or not she pokes a hole in the bottom of my tent with her nails or whatever happens to go down. Now, this Nemo has been dealing with my dog for 2-3 years, quite a long time. And you have to understand, Nemo tells you that if you use it for a dog, it's not warranted. So if she punctures that, I'm forced to patch it and hope for the best. You know, you have to have normal wear and tear if you're going to get that warranty that is amazing, is what you're going to have to have. But it depends where I'm going, how long I'm going, what the weather's like. All this has to be checked. Like right now, we're sitting about, 45 Fahrenheit, 40 Fahrenheit is the coldest we've gotten so far. And in daytime, we're back up in the 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, there's a 40-degree difference between nighttime and daytime. And right now, there's butterflies out, the bugs are out, the mosquitoes are out, the ticks are out. It's warm enough. But when nighttime comes, you get down to 40 degrees. In Tennessee, that's kind of kind of dangerous. You really have to pay attention. Snakes will try to cuddle up to you. I mean, wolf spiders will try to get, they're like tarantulas. They'll try to cuddle up to you. I mean, everything's looking for warmth when it starts to get cold at night. Now Halloween comes, we'll get a cold spell and we'll bounce below 0 degrees or 32 Fahrenheit. And that's when the bugs and everybody go underground. And anytime after Halloween, when you go camping, it's a lot more nicer. But you need the winter gear to do it, like the X-Peds. I find X-Peds to have thicker material, made better, and just warmer all the way around. If you're going to look at winter camping, I would look at the X-Peds. If you're looking at spring and summer, summer I would look at some Chinese knockoffs, 50, 60 bucks. But spring and summer I would look at the Nemo. But understand, pair that Nemo up with that Thermarest that you see in the center. And that Nemo will stay with you for a long time. I've had Nemos break on me, and being its warranty, they send me a new one. But once they get a hole in them, you can grab that material and you'll go all the way down like a knife slicing through it. It's just, a garbage bag has more protection than that thing. Because the Nemo, the long one there, is like 1 pound and 1 ounce. And in order to get that weight down, they have to make that material thinner and thinner and thinner. Where the X-Ped, on my far right, is a much thicker material, and it's got duck down in it, where the Nemo doesn't. It's insulated, the Nemo, the big rectangle one there, but it's not insulated with duck down. There is a difference. When I lay on my X-Ped, especially at night when it's down to 30 degrees, I literally feel the heat coming off that pad, where with the Nemo I don't. So I found that quite interesting. And I don't need a super duper $600 sleeping bag to stay warm with my X-Ped. All right, I go with quilts. Sometimes I'll carry 2 quilts depending on how old it is. I have videos that'll show where I ran 2 quilts with my Nemo with the Thermarest, and I wasn't cold, but I could feel the chill a little bit. With this new X-Ped I picked up, oh my God, I tried it out the other night, and when I laid on it, the heat off that pad's just unbelievable. I can get away with that with 1 quilt. If I had to, I could go to 2 quilts, but that X-Ped is very, very comfortable. It's also like 3 inches thick, where the Nemo, the big rectangle one, is like 2.5 inches or something. It's not as thick as that X-Ped. So it is a lot more comfortable when you roll on your side with your hip bones going into the ground. And you got to consider all this weight, right? I mean, if I was hiking the Appalachian Trail, I wouldn't be carrying 4 pads on me like I do now. So things would definitely go a lot lighter. But when I hike in now, I mean, I might go in 5 miles and go out for a night or 2 nights camping, and I can carry all this weight. Like I like my comfort. I like a good chair. I go in with probably 30 pounds, 35, 32 pounds of weight in my pack, and that's dry weight, which means no food or water. I make sure I run my water on my hips so I don't feel it. I try to move my weight around in my pack. My heavy stuff goes in the center of my backpack. Now, at the same time, food determines all this. So if I'm only going for 1 night, I mean, I'm not taking that much food, am I? But if I was going for 5 days, I'm carrying a lot more food. So a lot of things are going to change, is what's going to happen. But right now, with the Gossamer gear and the X-Ped and the Thermarest and this little short one, that's a pretty light for me and my dog, for my dog to stay warm. I could probably get away with just the Thermarest, but I don't want to reach over and put my hand on her. Next thing you know, I feel her shivering. That's the thing I don't want. And my dog will climb in with my quilt if it's cold enough. She's done it. She knows how to move that ass around to get into that quilt, and I just sit there and giggle. But really understanding the science of pads when you go hiking is very important. You're hiking in the summer, who cares? You sleep on the ground, it don't matter. The ground's warm enough. But when you start getting into wintertime, like Minnesota, minus 40 below, oh, that'll kill you. And you definitely would want the XPED 7 or the XPED 8. The 8 goes down to minus 40. The 7 goes down to minus 20. Okay, so that's important. I think I could take the XPED, the one on the far right, I could take that down to minus 40 pretty easy if I threw it on top of a thermarest. So you can double up on them, and what I would suggest, see, I don't like camping in the summer because the bugs are horrible, the ticks, and there's nothing enjoyable about that at all. You're sweating, you're gonna deal with the flies, the deer flies. There's nothing fun about that at all. You go out after Halloween when the cold spell kicks in and all the bugs start climbing underground. It makes everything so much more comfortable when you go. Is what it does. So understanding pads, understand the R. The higher they are, the colder you can go. Don't think you need some $600 sleeping bag. A lot of times when it comes to sleeping bags, if you're laying on the sleeping bag, the insulation under you is being squashed. So it's doing nothing to keep you warm, nothing at all. They started getting wise to that when they started running quilts because there's nothing under your back. The quilt is under your back. All the insulation's above you. You even got Big Agnes that's making sleeping bags that wrap around your pad. There's no insulation whatsoever. So it actually wraps around the pad, but there's no insulation on the bottom. The pad's your insulation. And then when you climb into the Big Agnes, well, now it's just using the top and the sides. And that keeps the warmth going. I see backpacks that have insulation all the way around, especially your army backpacks. I think they weigh like 10 pounds. And not backpacks, the army setup for sleeping outside. I see a lot of people advertising that. That system's like 10 pounds. That is crazy how heavy that is. Even with my dog, with this system, okay, you figure, let's say 2.5, let's go 3 pounds for that whole setup for me and my dog. Okay, throw on one quilt, that's another pound. So under 4 pounds, I've got a complete setup for staying warm and comfortable. Where with the army, the old army setup I see people buying that's 10 years old, that thing weighs 10 pounds, it's going to kill your back. And it's not going to be nowhere near as warm as this is. Not at all. You have to think about, you see that? That's one problem you got when you lay them out. Make sure when you blow up your pad, you shove it in your tent right away. You don't want to be camping on top of a mountain and that thing blows off and you're chasing after it and you fall right off a mountain like an idiot. Because and it's not even that windy. A light breeze will pick those up like a kite and send them. But there's a video about pads. And I tried to cover as much detail as I could. Oh, one more thing. The X pads have a patch kit that comes with glue and everything. So if you punch a hole, you'll be able to patch it out in the field. The Nemos, they don't come with everything. They come with the material patches, but they don't come with the glue. So make sure if you go with a Nemo, you check your patch kit, and when the glue's not there, make sure you get on Amazon and buy a glue to add to it. Or else you're going to be up a creek, basically, without a paddle. So, and you don't need this many pads. It's just what I've bought over time, and they're all used for different times, from fall to spring to winter, when they're used and what I use. And a lot depends on the weather. Like at 80 degrees during the day and 45 at night, I don't need that X-Ped. That is too warm. The Nemo, that's the one I take. Okay? So it really depends on what's going on with the weather. Now, if the weather goes down to 0 or 32 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to take the X-Ped, is what I'm going to take. Because I really want to feel comfortable and warm. So here's a quick take on pads. You got any questions, let me know. A lot of people link you up to Amazon and stuff like that. I would search Google when you buy these things. And I would look at Amazon. I would really look at about 8 stores. And look, when you know which pads you want, I would really start looking around, is what I would do. Because some of these, small hiking stores run specials to get rid of their pads. Like that far right X-Ped, that's minus 20 below. I saved $100 on that thing. And that's the biggest thing. Now you also have to pay attention to your height. If you're 6'2", if you're over 6 foot, you need a longer pad. So also pay attention to that. You pay a little bit more too because it's more material, more down and everything else. I'm short, so it doesn't matter. I save a little bit of money there. So also keep that in mind. So there we go, pads, pads, pads. You decide what works for you, but one thing's for sure, if you're going to camp in the winter, you're going to need a decent pad. And you're going to spend a couple $100. You're not going to be able to run some Chinese knockoff for $50 and expect that to keep you warm. You're going to be out there shivering like crazy. And you don't want to sweat. Okay, keep that in mind. If you're on a pad and you got a sleeping bag and you're sweating, that's bad because you're making moisture, which in turn is heating up your tent, which in turn is going to create more condensation in your tent, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and to the point where now you're freezing. So if you're sweating, you want to pay attention to that. Even when you're walking down the trail, sweating is bad. So you want to take a shirt off, or you want to take stuff off to bring your body temperature down to where you're not sweating. You know, when you get to camp, you're going to be, now you're not moving, you're not activating, so you're not going to heat up as bad. So now you may need a small coat to put on when you're just sitting in your chair. But keeping the idea of sweating in mind, if you're sleeping and you're starting to sweat, stick a leg out, pull the sleeping bag down, whatever. Try to keep your body regulated so you're not sweating. That's very important, especially in winter camping. All right, I'll stop rambling, but really take a look around for a good pad. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.